Welcome to the first of our two-part bite-sized webinar series around email deliverability. It's something that every marketer strives for, but it's actually pretty tricky to define. A lot of this comes down to confusing terminology. Delivered rate, hard and soft bounce, spam traps. I mean, what are these things and how do they work? Well, over the next 15 minutes, we'll hopefully not only explain these terms and more, but also dispel a few myths and clear up some confusion. We'll start off by running through some of the benefits of email marketing, move on to explaining deliverability metrics via distinguishing between delivery and deliverability, and finally examine some of the hurdles your email has to clear to cross the inbox finish line whilst avoiding the spam box pit of despair. Today I've got Holly and Tom here with me to explain the difficult bits that go way over my head, i.e. most of it. So hello you two.
Hi.
There you go.
Let's talk about why email is still relevant and why it's still the go-to channel for marketeers. Holly, the death of email has been much mooted for years. How on earth is it still hanging on?
People keep saying that, but email, is consistently ranked as the most effective channel available that's also within easy reach of B2B marketers. If you craft a smart email marketing strategy, it can automatically help boost brand awareness, it can generate and nurture leads, because you're engaging and communicating with them on a personal level. Not only can you reach customers in real time, but email marketing is affordable and it's cost effective, easy to measure and simple to automate.
What do you mean by real time in this instance?
Well, when we used to talk about real time, we were sort of limited to phone calls or things like chat support functions, because that's real time, right? There's a conversation that's actually happening. But smartphones have shifted and expanded the definition because people are constantly accessing all forms of internet messaging now. And we can see that by the fact that 54% of emails today are getting checked on mobile.
Right, so how cost effective is it?
Very. I think a recent email benchmark marketing report from Dotmailer said that the average ROI on email marketing was I think £39 for every £1 spent. So this puts email as easily the #1 marketing channel for ROI, beating SEO, content marketing, paid search, direct marketing, everything else basically. And because email volumes continue to increase, I think it's approximately 2.4 million emails are sent every second globally, marketers now more than ever need to ensure that their emails are appropriate and attractive and that they're going to actually arrive in the recipient's inbox.
Indeed they do. But what is it that prevents the 2.4 million emails sent every second from reaching their intended destination? It's basically all the fault of spam. So maybe before we get to deliverability itself, we should probably take a quick look at the major reason it's so damn difficult to hit those inboxes consistently these days. I mean, no one likes spam and no one will ever claim to want to actively create it, but like people who use their phones in the cinema, someone's doing it. Would either of you like to give us a potted history of spam? What is it? Where did it come from? And does it do any good whatsoever? Tom?
Yeah, well, it was email, I suppose, as a platform was created back in 1971, if you'd believe it. And it took 7 whole years for that first spam email to emerge and to be sent, which is, I suppose, in today's marketing landscape, a lifetime. So by my maths, in 1978, that was a guy called Gary, Gary Thurk, sent a message to hundreds of people, basically promoting a new computer, and he got a mixed response. Or some thought it was relevant and no big deal, but others found it really, really obtrusive. And anyway, Thurk claimed he sold 13 million worth of computers off the back of it, which I suppose in a way makes him both the father of spam and the father of email marketing.
I'd say that's probably quite a contentious issue that's still very much with us today. Marketer or spammer?
Yes, I'm not touching that one.
Out of curiosity, why is it even called spam?
It actually allegedly comes from Monty Python, the sketch where the word spam was used to repeatedly describe offerings on a restaurant menu, if you believe it, which annoyed the person who was trying to order their food who didn't actually like spam. Then the term was adopted by the early internet users and came to mean repeatedly posting that same message or trying to discourage legitimate communication. But when the internet use exploded in the 90s, it opened that door for those sort of early spam pioneers, I suppose, if that's what you want to call them, and glorify them, to send those unsolicited email messages to an unsuspecting public.
Okay, well that's kind of got that cleared up. What's the state of the spam landscape today? I mean, is it increasing? Is it decreasing?
It's definitely decreasing. So it's been on the decrease since around 2012, according to all the reports you'll see online. But most email sent today is still spam. In fact, according to Return Path, 70% of all emails sent is actually spam, which is quite a lot.
70%, that's insane. No wonder spam filters can act a little paranoid sometimes, then, I suppose. I mean, that's a lot of email to sift through. Talking of which, Holly, could you give us a bit of background on spam filters?
Sure. Well, firstly, a lot of people will try and tell you that spam filters can be avoided, and that's a lie. They absolutely can't. Spam filters are just a part of the email process today. If you send an email, it will be filtered. And the best attitude to take is just embrace them, make your peace with them, because they're there. Filter technology is going to play a massive role in the success of your email campaign, so you're way better off learning how they work, and understanding them.
Okay, that sounds like pretty good advice, but I mean, I've got a feeling we're not going to have the time to go really in depth on this sort of stuff, so I mean, let's kind of keep it pretty top line, I reckon.
Yeah, probably best. We could easily talk for an hour about spam filters, and I don't think anybody wants that. I don't even want that. So firstly, it's not simply just about mitigating the annoyance factor from spam. It can also be dangerous. Malware and phishing are hugely, hugely profitable and can be costly for mailbox providers' customers.
And going back quickly to that ridiculous stat of 70% of emails being spam, I'm sure they drastically reduced the load on the server resources as well. All right, so what different types of filters have we got?
Mainly there are two, and that's gateway filters and third-party or hosted by another name filters. So gateway filters are physical servers, and they're installed at the border of a company's network. So everything that wants to get through has to pass through their gate. This filter learns what to deem as spam based on all of the email coming into the company. On the other hand, third-party filters can control filtering at the gateway, or after a message has passed through, and then they determine where to deliver the email to from there.
Okay, so for example, they'd send them
either to the inbox or spam or quarantine, or they would just block them completely. Their scope is much broader, as they have a broader scope of information to draw on in order to make decisions.
Okay, so how do I know if I've made it into the inbox? I mean, I've spent ages creating this campaign. I've segmented audiences, I've tailored content, I've crafted brilliant copy, images, teasers, all that kind of stuff. How do I know when I've actually got into that inbox? I mean, because if it doesn't actually get there, all that hard work is going to have been for absolutely nothing.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's loads of different metrics to decide how it gets there. Loads of marketers use loads of different ones to track them, like click-through rates, open rates, conversion rates, but I suppose they're all completely worthless, as you said, if it doesn't get delivered. So what you want to look for is deliverability.
Which is not the same as delivery?
No, and people always get them confused.
So what is the difference?
So delivery only refers to whether or not the email server has accepted your email, or perhaps it bounces back before it reaches that spam filter. So in a way, deliverability is more about that final destination, where it ends up once it's passed through that spam filter. So if it doesn't get classed as spam, then it should end up in their inbox.
Okay, so what's the difference between deliverability and inbox placement?
Absolutely nothing. They're one and the same. Some say deliverability, some say inbox placement. It's a tomato-tomato sort of scenario.
Okay, right. This is getting a little bit clearer. Right, so if the email server said it's been delivered, then I've reached the inbox.
No. So mail servers might indicate that your email's been delivered, but that can be misleading. An email campaign delivery report might show that your email has a delivery rate of 82%, 82% of your recipients' mail servers have accepted your email. But what it doesn't show, and what's really important, is that unless you analyse the inbox placement report, is that in reality 15% of your subscribers' mail filters marked your emails as junk or spam. So your email didn't actually end up in the recipient's inbox, but sailed right on past it to the spam folder. So in reality, only 67% of your recipients ever actually received your email in their inbox, rather than the initial misleading stat of 82%.
Okay, right. So the lesson here is that the metric I'm after is inbox placement, not delivery.
Exactly. We're getting there.
Fingers crossed.
Slowly.
Right, okay. Could we perhaps go into maybe a little bit more detail about the email's journey? I mean, what happens to it once I've hit send? I mean, because to be honest, I don't really have a clue. I mean, much like how the tiny people get inside my TV and whatnot.
Well, it's actually very similar, Gary.
Really?
No, absolutely not. It's nothing like it. Every email, once you click that send button, will travel through a complex series of sequence of mail servers once the user hits that send button.
Could you break these steps down for me?
I can try. So outgoing mail servers use a protocol which is known as SMTP, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, and they are essentially what guides your emails from your computer to your intended recipients. Now, your recipient server will connect to your domain's SMTP server, which then processes the recipient's email address, including its domain.
Hang on a sec. What's a domain?
A domain's just anything, that ends the address. So gmail.com or luddite.com.
Yeah, exactly. So if the recipient's domain is the same as the sender's, then the message is routed directly to them. If the domain names are different, though, so gmail.com sending to luddite.com, for example, then the SMTP server will have to talk to the recipient's domain server. Are you with me so far?
Yeah, I think so. I'm getting this.
Good. It's a lot of semantics and a lot of jargon. But so in order to find that recipient's domain server, the sender's SMTP server needs to talk to the DNS, another acronym, or domain name server. This takes the recipient's email domain name and translates it into an IP address. And an IP address, which I'm sure we are all aware, is a unique number given to every device connected to the internet.
Every single device?
Everyone. Computer, phone, tablet, smart fridge, everything. So anyway, this is where the recipient's mail server will aim to authenticate the senders. So, for example, your identity. It will check to see if you can prove who you are via a series of complex protocols I'm not even going to begin to talk about, like your email address, your domain name, your IP address, things like that.
Okay, so it needs to know that I am who I say I am.
Exactly, and similarly, your mail server will need to check that the recipient's email address, domain name, and IP address are also valid. So once all those checks have gone through and they're all okayed, it'll route through the numerous SMTP servers, and that recipient's mail server allows that message to be downloaded so it can be read by the person you're trying to send it to.
Well, that sounds really simple.
Yeah.
Okay, so what kind of checks could I carry out to ensure that my email gets accepted by their mail server?
First things first is that you're going to want to ensure that you can prove your identity. Their mailbox provider is going to want to confirm your actual identity as the sender, so as to make sure you're not a spammer or a phisher. If it can't identify you, then it's either going to reject you straight out or put you through further tests to find out who you are. If you're already using a reputable email or marketing automation provider, then a lot of the required sender authentication tech, that is a massive sentence to try and get out, that should already be incorporated.
Okay, so going back to those authentication protocols, what are they?
Well, without, diving too far into the dark abyss of acronyms, like Tom did earlier, some of the main ones include DKIM, SPF, and DMARC. Plus, you've got the creation, publication, and testing of authentication records.
Okay, I'm going to be a pain and ask you to explain these a little bit further.
Sure, no problem. So, SPF, that's a Sender Policy Framework, and that's a tried and tested method of enabling a sender to verify their identity. DKIM, Domain Keys Identified Email, is this the kind of the new kid on the block, and it's a much more robust way to authenticate the same thing. So this basically ensures that the content of the email hasn't been interfered with. And then finally you've got DMARC, which is your Domain Message Authentication Reporting and Conformance. So hope everyone's making notes. This one ensures that both the requirements of the last two have been met before allowing delivering.
Okay, it works like a failsafe.
Exactly like a failsafe.
All right, cheers. Okay, so what else do they look out for?
Well, basic things like, do you and your recipient actually have a valid email address? I'm sure you've all mistyped an email address and had it bounce back to you before.
Yeah, I've done that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought as much, Gary. Anyway, this will also determine whether or not you are a spam bot. So next they'll look to see if your IP address or that domain has been blocked. And once enough people report a domain, its reputation is in ruin. And much like people and my hairline, it's not coming back anytime soon.
Okay, so what are the repercussions if any of these things are discovered?
Prison.
Really?
Brutal.
Well, harsh. No, it's not prison. But if you can't prove your identity, or that your recipient's email addresses are valid, Or even, if your IP address has been blocked, then your email will probably bounce right back to you. I should probably also mention that there are actually 2 types of bounces, and that's hard and soft.
Okay, you know what I'm going to say here, right?
What are they?
You got it.
Hard and soft.
And
what's the difference?
You got it.
So hard bounces are most often due to an invalid email address or domain, or an address which is no longer in use. So as a general rule, if an email is marked as a hard bounce, it will simply be suppressed and not sent again. Soft, on the other hand, they typically occur because of a temporary delivery failure. So that can be something like the client's inbox is full, or your email is just way too massive. You probably get about, 5 automatic reattempts with a soft bounce before it then becomes a hard bounce.
Okay. Right, so is there anything else that we should sort of cover off here?
I think that's pretty much it for the first part of the journey. Next comes the spam filter, and that's way more Tom's area.
Yeah, try and stop me. So basically, mailbox providers use both inbound and outbound spam filter technology. I suppose they're called classifiers to categorize messages when they sent, and which, as we mentioned earlier, determine their fate, whether they end up in the inbox, yay, or the spam box, boo. They're pretty complex and use algorithms plus a long list of criteria to ascertain whether or not your message is inbox worthy. But Gary, you're a simple man here. How technical would you like me to get?
A little bit technical.
Okay, perfect. You're a very smart man. I was only joking. As well as algorithms, outbound and inbound filter methods use heuristics, and the most advanced form of heuristics, known as Bayesian, as part of their filtering technology. So algorithms in this context are rules, and the rules tell the program what to do. Heuristics work by subjecting email messages to thousands of predefined rules, which are the algorithms. Each rule assigns a numerical score to the probability of that message you send being spam. So basically, it's like a scorecard, and if you score too highly in too many categories, then you're not getting to the inbox.
Right, okay, I think that's technical enough for the time being. And how is this reputation kind of ascertained?
Yeah, the reputation of the sender is calculated using the same algorithms and heuristics that leverage millions of data points and hundreds of parameters. So a reputation score can range from 0 to 100, from -10 to +10, to a more categorical sort of undisclosed, neutral, good, bad. Based on the strength of the reputation score, mailbox providers will then make decisions about that email coming from the sender.
Okay, so what are the kind of parameters that they'd leverage to generate this kind of score?
Well, common ones you'd more likely find are complaints, spam traps, message composition, sheer volume, I suppose, how many you're sending, and good old-fashioned blacklists. So complaints are the main contributing factors. So if you're going to minimize anything, make it those.
Okay, so you've got to have, by having content that's relevant to the user, for example.
Yeah, it can't hurt. It's probably a good place to start, really. There's now this content analysis technology that scans every single part of an email, from your footer, your header, the code in it, the HTML markup, images, all sorts. They completely look at everything. And spam filters form an integral part of that email ecosystem. Without them, email probably wouldn't work. There would be spam messages galore, and it would just crash the system. And essentially, people wouldn't start using their emails if they were getting bombarded, which I suppose makes filters our friends. And as users, we need to appreciate that they do good. They keep unwanted mail out of our inbox and let the good stuff in. So as marketers, we all need to embrace them.
Yeah, completely. Filters are the reason that the important transactional emails actually land in our inbox, where we can find them when we need them. If you're doing legitimate business, then you have nothing to fear from the spam filter.
Okay, I like this. I'm getting to love this. I'm getting to love the spam filter. It's a bit like therapy. Before we all go off and have a big spam filter group hug, I think this is probably a good place for us to stop, to be honest. Next time we're going to get into how you can improve your deliverability by deploying a bundle of tried and tested strategies. Any heads up on maybe what that's going to include next time?
Afraid you're going to have to wait for part 2.
Okay, fair enough. Well, thanks, guys.
Bye.